thank you for just the opportunity to get together with brothers and sisters that we can talk about life and you and how you interacted in their business and their work and just even some practical things about business and what it means to build and follow a vision and a dream and to build a team. So, God, I pray you in this conversation and you would lead us to the things that are going to be needed and useful for students who are going to view this. And I pray that people would be able to have an honest and authentic conversation today in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know, it never stops. When you have a business, you're always working in a sense. But if you could tell me a little bit about how you got started with Goodman Coffee Roasters.
Yeah, so this is my second coffee-related business. So my first one was started basically my senior year at Covenant. For the senior thesis project you have to do, I was starting one for a business plan for a coffee shop. And the more research I did, the more I realized, hey, Chattanooga is kind of primed for starting something. So we started that, I guess back when I was 21. And then owned that for 11 and a half years or so before we sold that. And then I did a few other things. Worked for helped other small businesses, worked for a larger business, a chain of hotels, doing finance work, and then just missed playing around with coffee. So we started this one up almost 5 years ago. And then
and we started the first business we started as a coffee shop, and then we moved into roasting soon after we opened. This coffee shop, this business, we started the complete opposite direction. In our first one, they were together, the two businesses. And in this one, we started a roaster. And then after several months, then we opened a coffee shop. And then during COVID, we've opened our second location.
Okay.
Which is really an expansion of our roastery.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's really interesting sort of decision expanding during COVID.
Right.
What motivated that?
Well, the logic behind it was, it's a risk and a gamble, but it seems to have been paid off. But our flagship location is downtown. That is we're never going to see an increase back from the major dip we've had in sales until the major businesses that are within a block of us come back to work. TVA, Coyote Logistics, this Bell House company, all of them are remote working. And that's easily 40% of our normal revenue.
Okay.
Just those three businesses. So this one is more in a neighborhood where we live, where our roaster is. So it's a community-based one. So there's less. There's still impact from COVID, but the impact is less. So it was more of hey, we can keep dumping money in to save basically to keep things going and help with the hemorrhaging of money at this one location downtown, or we can take a risk, use that money, open a second location next to the roaster, which will take a lot less revenue to be profitable, and see if we can at least balance the books and break even. And so that was the original thought behind it. The opportunity opened up for this space that's right next door to the roaster. So I jumped on that, and then and so far it's worked. It does enough revenue to help balance out the losses and to basically stem the flow of cash that COVID caused.
So really the landscape of business has changed, whereas people used to go downtown. Now downtown is just it's coming back, but it's coming back very slowly. And this location, because we're actually in the roaster in St. Elmo, and we have the expansion, we have a patio out back, so there's outdoor seating. And there's minimal seating inside, but it was also minimal build out. So it's an adjacent suite. So we actually share a door that was already there. So we didn't have to build any of that in. We didn't have to, put in a kitchen and plumbing and all of that, but it was very doable.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's now. Did you gain new clientele, or did you kind of move closer to your clientele?
Yeah. Gains
But
new, and well, both. Yeah, I think both is probably the correct
mhm.
answer, but certainly gains um, new clientele, or made it easier for clientele that would maybe sporadically come downtown
Okay.
to come more often, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Now, there's how many employees do you have?
13.
13. Okay. Is that including yourself? Or are you including yourself in
Four,
that? Or
four.
okay.
I'm 14.
Okay. So the
And I
14.
have Phoebe.
Yeah.
Okay. High level volunteer that they're always.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
actually start most mornings here. I come in and help with baking or whatever. So this location gave us the opportunity because our downtown location at Warehouse Row doesn't have a kitchen. But
okay.
here we were able to build out a kitchen, which enabled us to do our own baked goods, which were really great,
Okay.
which we had done in our first business. But just with the logistics downtown, the location, across from TVA, the location was more important than that. So we were partnering with others. And we
Right.
still do a lot of partnerships with other companies and businesses in the area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Uh, so that question I sent you first, kind of the most impactful decisions that you guys think you've made in your company. Were you guys able to give some thought or have some discussion about that? Or uh,
Um, Most impactful decision. Sorry, I didn't see that. I didn't see the
oh,
Yeah,
question
I failed to
beforehand.
send that to him.
Um,
So
oh, that's
the I would say it probably, well, doing what we've done during COVID has probably, legitimately been the biggest impact
yeah,
decision that we've made. Opening another location, taking that
yeah.
chance, um, trying to find a way to grow revenue streams without spending a ton of extra money. Um, so that, I mean, that certainly I think is probably the biggest decision we've had to make.
mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, um,
We really do work to try to think through what are the needs of our customers.
Mhm.
So when we went downtown, the location that we have down there, there had been another coffee shop in before that, but it's TVA across the street from us, the Tennessee Valley Authority. So they are a government agency that has breaks at 10 and 2, and they need coffee fast. They don't need a long turnaround. While they like pour overs, that's too much time for them.
Okay.
So everything that we did in going down there was really strategically about what does our customer need and how do we bring the quality product that we have in a way that enables them to keep getting their things done. It just adds into their day as value, as opposed to, well, if I walk across the street and I get coffee, then it's going to take me a few minutes to order and stand in line, and then I'm going to have to, everything down there is about speed. It's about like being able to do that. But also we're in a shopping area too. So there's Anthropology and Lululemon and other businesses right near us, as
Mhm.
well as corporate offices. So it's a really interesting location for that, which has made us, it's required us to be more mindful of our customer. Here in our St. Elmo location, we do have families, but it is a lot of professionals who are suddenly working from home and tired of being working from home. So they'll come and they'll work out on our patio, or they'll work in
Okay.
here or something. And so that's enabled them also to have another place to go. So while the product is still the same, the service is still the same, there are definite little shifts in that to accommodate changes.
sure.
Okay. See, it's more of a safe social space in a way now than it was before. That's what
Right.
you're saying. Okay. And you mentioned roasting your own beans. Now, most coffee shops I mentioned don't roast their own beans. Is that a very unique distinctive you have in Chattanooga, or is that something that you have a lot of competition in that now?
Oh, there's a lot of competition in that. I mean, I started the first I mean, when I started roasting coffee in '97,
Yeah.
um, there were only a couple of roasters in the Southeast period that were small
Mhm.
roasters like that. You know, now in Chattanooga, I mean, I think there's like 6 or 7.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Um, so there is a lot of competition on that front on the roasting side. Um, but it's especially for wholesale.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Mhm.
but
But he's really good at what he does, and he wouldn't tell you this, but he was in a competition this summer and tied for fourth globally as a coffee roaster.
Whoa.
Uh, so then he's also won barista competition. So we've been in the coffee industry since really right after third wave coffee was kind of a thing. So
before, yeah.
yeah, before.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
been in the coffee industry for a long time and been able to see and yet maintain phenomenal standards. So
Wow. Okay, so you're really good at roasting coffee beans. That's
That's
okay. So, and I don't know much about the science of of coffee. I know sourcing matters, and so
sure.
coffee beans that are grown in Illinois probably aren't as good as coffee beans grown in Colombia. For example, if you're able to
Right.
do that, uh,
Yes.
but it's so I know about sourcing. But what's unique about how one person roasts versus another that gives the coffee a different flavor? Would you
Well, I mean,
explain
if you think
about
of
that?
it, I mean, it's definitely a large part science and a large part art, you
Okay.
know. So I think if you look at compare it to wine, if you could grow tons of the exact same grape on the exact same vineyard, and then give it to 5 vintners, and they're going to create 5 different tasting products. There may be a same baseline to them, but it's going to be different because of the way that they do something different, or it's where the science comes in, it's understanding how you modulate flavor profiles and create them because the whole roasting process is basically the creation and breakdown of acids, chemicals, sugar. I mean, you've got your Maillard reaction where you have to really focus on how you're browning the sugars. There's a lot of sucrose in coffee, so how that happens, um, so that especially at the end, the effects of the pyrolysis on the coffee. Um, so understanding all those, and then there's 2 ways you can approach. My approach for roasting has always been let's do everything we can to highlight the work of the farmer themselves
Mhm.
by bringing out the best in that coffee of what's naturally there.
mhm.
Um, you can also then you can take the same coffee, and that generally means light to medium roasting levels, to bring all that out. The darker you roast a coffee, the more you're destroying the natural elements of the coffee and creating elements that are solely found because of the roasting process that have
Yeah.
nothing to do with the way the coffee was grown. Example, why Starbucks can have the exact same blend all year round, and I'm 100% certain that is never the same coffee every two
Mhm.
months. There's not enough coffee grown of one varietal to cover them. So they can manipulate coffees to taste the way they want them to taste,
Mhm.
regardless of where they were grown.
Huh.
Um, so I've always wanted to me that's sad because the farmers, the people that grow, harvest, pick, process, they spend a lot of time putting a lot into these coffees. I want you to taste the work they put into it,
Huh.
and less the impact that I've put on it. Um, so yeah, I mean, you're gonna get differences on from different roasters. Good roasters will come up with 10 different products that may be slightly different, but they're gonna have a same. There's gonna be a lot of similarities to them, if you're all roasting about the same way. But it's just understanding the chemistry of what you're doing to the coffee bean and how you create flavor profiles.
Huh. I just feel like I got a course, I got a class just in that about coffee. I didn't. You used words I didn't know about. I think there were pyrenes mentioned there. And that I'd never heard that before.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different chemicals, a lot of different reactions of what's going on in the coffee, and understanding how that works, those impacts, and you know, not destroy them.
How many pounds of coffee are in here right now?
A lot.
We're sitting in a room that's like it goes.
I don't know, 15,000 pounds maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's I did not expect it to go that high. Okay, wow.
So, like the coffee behind us is a micro lot from Nicaragua, and Ian and our son Kosi were just down on that in Nicaragua with Ben back in February, right as all the COVID stuff was starting. And so, actually, the grower, his wife paints all these bags.
Oh no, he hires women in the communities to paint them as another source of income. So,
Wow.
so you'll see. Well, I don't have.
There's some beautiful ones that like have landscapes. There's some that have apples and pears and different things to depict like if it's grown and it has like apple notes, or maybe it's grown near an apple orchard, it picks up a lot of those things as well.
Yeah, well,
And you can preserve that.
here, but yeah.
You can preserve that by the way you roast it, that it's possible to taste a bit of the apple if it's grown near an apple orchard or that sort of.
Okay, no, yes, she was a little off on that. The impact of things next to the coffee farm can have an impact on the way the coffee tastes, but for apple, and for instance, what gives an apple a lot of it, what we know of like crisp apple, is malic acid. So there is coffees that tend to have higher levels of malic acid over citric acid can be more aptly in their profile, but yeah.
Wow. I've probably never had a good cup of coffee. Now that I'm talking to you, I wonder if I've ever had a cup of, like, I want Goodman's coffee now. I think, wow, this is available. You sell this online?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. And will I now I'm nervous. Like, will I even be able to know how to respect the bean properly? Like, will it taste? It probably won't taste as good as if you make it, but will it taste? I'll still be able to tell the difference between this and my Starbucks pre-ground stuff that I got from the supermarket.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. But it is. I mean, that is the hardest thing for me as a roaster. Is I can source the best coffees. I can roast it perfectly, package it, and then give it to you, and you not make it very well, and then it doesn't taste very good. Because
we do a lot of education.
Yeah, so trying to educate and getting people, and it's better now than it was 20 plus years ago. There are more average consumers that are far more educated on brewing, but it's a process of extraction. So it's you're taking a seed, basically, you're grinding it. So the object of what you want for the coffee is an extraction of the solubles that are in that coffee, and then you want to extract the things you want to extract, not extract things you don't want to extract. Ratios of water, grounds to water, there is a specific ratio. Temperature is very, very important. Time, the length of time that the grounds are in contact with water is very important.
Okay.
No, your average home coffee maker, like Mr. Coffee, is never going to make a good cup of coffee. Or as good as it could be. But put that in terms, if that's what you're used to, switching, you will notice differences for sure. But that's always a hard thing for me, because in the wine or beer, whiskey, any of the other higher end beverage things, when they're done and they decide this is perfect, it's bottled, packaged, and sent off, and shy of you doing something really dramatically wrong to it, it will taste the way they intended it to taste. That's a hard thing, and why education and talking with customers and helping people understand certain things is one, it also helps make a very loyal customer when you can train and teach them, and it opens their eyes.
And they're able to consistently do it themselves at home too, which becomes really, even more important. So when we first opened our roaster, because we'd been out of the coffee industry for a few years and then we went back in, there was one day where Ian was just really overwhelmed. He was like, I don't know how I'm gonna like get it all out. Like, what am I gonna do? And so we went to Facebook that night and just created a very quick just little Facebook page, because we were just roasting and we were just starting to like do this on the side in addition to our full-time jobs at the time. And the next morning when we came in, we had 450 followers and orders from all over the country. And people were like, the sight of seeing Ian over a roaster is like making my heart sing. And they would like, so suddenly we were roasting coffee and shipping all over. And it was really fun. So it just continued to grow from there. But when you're able to really train yourself, know what you do it well, and really respect the process. There's so many hands that touch the coffee and the coffee bags and all of that before we ever get it. So we do really work hard, to try to get to know as much as we can. The different growers they're constantly, Tyler and Ian are constantly in here tasting different samples. We have a sample roaster, so they're tasting all of that to kind of see what's going to be a good roast, what's going to work out well, what's going to highlight the varietal and that year's crop. And crops can change from year to year. So there's a lot of things that you have to know that for Ian and Tyler, it's kind of like breathing, which is really nice.
That sounds good. I got a couple of questions off screen here, so I'm going to turn. Do you want to say it out loud? Did you tell me? How do you know how to source, since it matters so much as far as just those relationships with people? Like, are these relationships that you had even the first time you were in the business, you were able to recapture, or how do you find great growers?
Some have come to me. Others, it's just, getting to know people. And I've been in it long enough where I know a ton of people. So, just getting connections and then finding farms that are doing really cool stuff. Like we're just starting with a new farm in Colombia. They're doing some crazy experimental fermentations of the coffee. Different, just lots of different methods to change and have an impact on the way the coffee tastes, and they're really fun. So that's when I find that, I get kind of excited. But I'm finding smaller farms. I find
Women-owned farms like Tuval.
Yeah, we work with several woman-owned farms in different countries, and then but yeah. So I mean, my main focus is finding coffee that I find very exciting and good, and then, but often that works into those coffees are also tends to be the ones that they're doing more in their communities. Their efforts have higher rewards for the people working for them, so that tends to help the coffee, get better, and So yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of getting in samples, having them shipped in, roasting them, trying them, and then just creating and establishing that relationship, and going from there, and then eventually going down and seeing them.
Okay, so you have, I guess, a lot of traveling is involved on an annual basis.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton, because I'm small enough, and that can get crazy expensive and time consuming.
Yeah.
But I do try, if I can, go down to one of the farms once a year.
Okay.
That we work with, then we'll do that, and then sometimes they'll come here. There's any of the major annual coffee conventions. Like Ben, I met him at the Roasters Guild retreat, which is basically a guild for coffee roasters. And he was there, and that's how I met him.
And then he went to Nicaragua,
Yeah.
and that's where Ben is working with it's like a museum of coffee.
Well, he grows his own. Yeah, has that him. But yeah, so he just does a lot of cool stuff of And so what he's done is he has his farm, and then he basically finds other small farms in the area around him that are doing good things, but he comes in and basically helps them, and it kind of brings as part of the co-op, helps them create better, um, process better, pick better, harvest better, and then get a lot more money per pound,
Hmm.
um, for their coffees, which has a huge impact on those communities. Because if you look at, and so I mean, that's one reason why I really like working directly with small farms when I can. Um, the impact is so much greater, than, we're seeing problems all around the world where people are just getting out of farming coffee because the commodity price on coffee is so cheap,
Yeah.
that it's not sustainable even in a third world country. That's not a sustainable amount of money to survive.
So big
With
companies
costs.
want to
So
drive those costs down,
right,
drive
Yeah.
their costs down. So they'll be like, I'll buy all of your coffee, but I'm only going to pay, $1 a pound.
right.
Whereas we'll
Okay.
work with a smaller crop and who's doing amazing things and pay a lot more.
For me, I'm interested in exciting coffees that are really, really good and really different and fun. You know, um, so I mean, cost is a concern. Will dictate how much of certain things I can buy, but I'm not. We've got lots from Yemen, that are $150 a pound coffees.
Okay.
And then other ones where they're 40, 30, $40 a pound coffees.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So um but that, when you can do things like that and reward the effort and the work they're doing, that's what's going to create long-term sustainability of, they're making more money. That also drives, I mean, it's reciprocal because they make more money, but it also drives them to always be producing a better product to
Yeah.
keep us coming back and spending a lot more money, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and so it's very mutually beneficial.
I can see that. I mean, you
And
could
there's some major shifts we've seen in the coffee world, since I started roasting coffee. Um, the caliber of coffee you can buy now compared to what I could buy in the mid late 90s is dramatically different. You know, um, dramatically different.
I think he was
wow.
going
Yeah. This is. I mean, it's actually just hearing your passion and your just the love of the craft, and also the how much you care about the entire kind of supply chain and the value chain, even that when people get out what they're putting into it and really rewarding people putting extra it's I mean there's really it seems like there's a love that for the entire process in the industry and having the best cup of coffee, creating the best experience for people that just kind of shines through and talking to you to an extent that I've thought about things now in coffee. It's like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't know all the nuances and things. And I kind of feel a little cheated. Like I've gone to places, again, you figure that at one time, Starbucks was the best coffee anyone ever had because they get like a 50%, a 50 cent, cup of coffee in a styrofoam cup. It's Folgers or something from a gas station.
Right.
And so it's like, well, Starbucks is way better than that. but
Yeah.
but then to hear like, oh, wow, there's such uniqueness that, in every sort of being the farms that it comes from to how it's roasted and even how it's made in a way that really respects the whole process. That's just really exciting to hear you. It's kind of a contagious enthusiasm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah. I love working with it. I love the communities, around the world. Um, and I mean, and having traveled a lot, around the world to various third world countries, I have a greater appreciation for, um, their life is harder,
Mm-hmm.
and everything about that. So many things that we take for granted, um, are just struggles in life, for a lot of these communities, you know. So finding ways to work with them and, you know, do things that, you know, help them better them, create, you know, resources. Um, I don't know, that side of it also is very exciting and fun for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's clear there's a level of consideration and thoughtfulness about this. You know, a lot of people wave the flag and self sustainability, or they wave the flag. You know, the kind of greenwashing that goes into that, or even a lot of Christian businesses do that. You know, they've got a fish, they've got a cross. You know, they've got some Christian music in a way, and so
Yes.
that's about that's the depth they've thought about it. And I'd also like to kind of ask you the extent you went to Covenant College, which is kind
Yeah.
of a private Christian school, and you're kind of, I saw your wife went to praxis, so it seems like your faith may play a role in it,
Sure.
and some people take that. And so, I guess, how does that influence either, you know, the standards that you hold yourself to, or how you treat your employees, or is that does that kind of inform how you treat people in your supply chain? I guess how does that what impact does that have your faith on your business if you feel that that's important?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's, you know, just, you know, the saying of, you know, doing all things for the glory of God,
Yeah.
you know, how that should permeate everything that you do and how you just live. You know, I don't like the concept of Christian businesses. Like, a coffee shop is not a Christian coffee shop.
Mhm.
I happen to be a Christian. You know, I happen to own a coffee shop. That does not therefore make my coffee shop a Christian coffee shop, but it should have, you should be able to look at how we operate, how we treat our employees, how we handle the, you know, the people that are in our supply chain, you know, from that we get the coffee from, how we, you know, all the things that we strive for, it should reflect our Christianity should be reflected in all those things that we do. You know, I think nothing makes me more sad than when, you know, you see, you know, a business with Christian stuff all over it, and then they just do a sucky job at what they do.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I want to be the best at what I do, not because I want to be better than everyone else, but because everything I do should be a reflection of, you know, my love for God and people. You know,
And the world is so wounded. So there's so much opportunity for redemption and for restoration. And it's simply loving people and seeing them and seeing the work of their hands. And when you begin to close that gap, it's amazing. We had this one friend who has a very different faith of a different religion, and he was in our presence. And afterwards, later, he said to Ian, he was like, "I don't think I've ever felt more comfortable in another city or meeting somebody else as I do with you, because we really do work to see the people." And I think that that makes a difference. Not to walk in with a big badge on, but to just simply love them and to be sacrificial and to be as redemptive as we can, so that the crop is better, the growers have a better life, the customers who buy it can feel really good about their purchase, and then can go home and enjoy it and share it as a gift and all of that. So it's every single step in there that becomes part of that process.
yeah, because I think for me, I think the biggest impact we can have on other people is not because we tell them what we are, but because they ask the question, why are you different? Why, you know, why is this, why do you do it this way? Why, you know, or just, you know, wow, you handle people well, you treat people well. I love it, you know, why is that? You know, I think that has a bigger impact than it's like, well, you know, my faith. I want, you know, I think that tends to have a bigger impact than, you know, wearing a big ichthus fish on your shirt or your business card or whatever, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. That was really thoughtful. And I mean, it's just the level of quality and attention you pour into, you know, your work and your passions really become your life at this point.
Sure.
It's really clear that doing quality work is very important to you. And it sounds like that's kind of a part of you're motivated by, by your desire to give God glory, to be excellent, or to do a great job in every aspect of your business. So that, that's I think that's really important. But sometimes we do when we talk about it. Well, Christian businesses are the ones that obviously they tell you they're Christian businesses. That's how you know they're Christian businesses. So, and what does that even mean? Because
Right.
no businesses that are businesses going to be in heaven when we all go there. They're going to have
Right.
logos and signs but what does that even mean? And so I think that's something that there are different visions about that. And so I think that's important to my students to hear that being great is one great way to share being
Right.
motivated by your love for God to be great at what you do.
Right. Yeah, and it's not, and I think that's an important thing is too with it is it's there also is a difference of that desire for greatness because you want to be better than everybody else rather than just a desire to be the best to do the best you can with what you're doing. You can still ultimately be the best, but I think that outlook is the difference between you know, someone who looks at life and business through a Christian perspective and someone who doesn't. You know.
It's exhausting just to try to kind of looking over your shoulder and just trying to, and you can run out because you're not just looking forward, you're just trying to be a step ahead of someone else. And
Right.
I think that can be really exhausting and anxiety producing as opposed to just kind of your model. So.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that, we've dealt with a lot of really hard things, being business owners and health issues and all kinds of things. 2020 has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination for anyone, obviously. But it is that reminder that the Lord doesn't leave us. He's constantly there for us in everything. And yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share, maybe with our students, or just about your business that we didn't really address?
Did you? We did have, it was a lot with the PPP and SBA and all of those things, and that was really it's been a crazy summer.
Yeah.
But we're really hopeful that things will continue and will come back. And
yeah. So you've had to change, I guess, a lot about how you actually deliver your services and how you manage the physical environment in your space, and you had to do that pretty quickly. Pretty quickly with maybe not a whole lot of extra funding to do that with. It's now illegal to do it in some other ways. So that's how'd you guys figure? Was there a lot of creative adaptation there?
Yeah, because there was a big shift for okay, we got to figure out, because online all of a sudden became much bigger.
Yeah.
And so a shift for that, a shift for how we, get product into customers' hands, especially when on the retail side, the bulk of the money is made in selling somebody physically a drink, so trying to figure out how to best, get that back to where we can, and we're still trying to find new ways of things to do and, to make it easy, especially now, especially with things spiking back up. What's that going to look like? How, but yeah, and that's also been probably the hardest aspect of it is figuring out what changes to make and where to put the money to make the changes and what's going to be the most return and, an efficient and effective way of spending money to make money. That's probably been the hardest part of this whole thing of, every dime that goes out needs to be returning money. It can't be, we can't, advertising, being real particular in how you spend money on advertising, because every aspect of that is just takes a lot of thought of making sure it's the smartest use of the money.
Yeah.
Which has been exhausting. I mean, even when Chattanooga was shut down for 2 months, we were closed for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I think. And Ian still went to work. He came to the register every day and he would package up orders and all of that. And then he was constantly working on all of the different applications and making sure everything was going well. And also, caring for the people as much as we could. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Have you, I've noticed some companies that did really well, if they just kind of, like you said, focused on taking care of their community and focused on, they really became more integrated into the community. And so just kind of, and that helped them to bounce back. And some companies that were, they had a huge brand, and that may have helped. But it seems like smaller businesses, people really rallied around community as
Sure.
and that's really helps people, because they'll see, okay, they kind of see you as part of themselves, and you're part of my, extended family now. So I want to be here, because we can't go out. We were restricted from really traveling a lot, but you're a part of me every day. And so businesses that really captured that and continue to be kind of that gathering spot, or just being a presence in the community, have reaped some rewards for that. Have you experienced some of that?
Sure. I think it's definitely there's definitely been a, rallying of the community around small businesses for sure. Even like just even when it started, having, a customer come in who buys a lot of coffee every month and goes, "Hey, I'm gonna prepay you for a lot of coffee. Here's $1,500." But then, as always, when he comes and gets coffee, he's always like, we'll start this next year. So there's a lot of things like that, and that's a bigger example, but it's just a lot of examples of, the community, and I think a lot of people also realize that, hey, if the customer doesn't find ways to support the small businesses, none of us are going to survive this anyway. So I think there's a level of, the community knows, we have to find ways to support the businesses we love so they stay around.
Okay.
But,
That's really, I don't know. That always, you don't expect that. You expect people maybe to be a bit more transactional sometimes, and I'm always sometimes just surprised at how much people really care. And I shouldn't be, but I sometimes just surprised at how much people really care, even though it's business and they're getting a service, but how much people really care about, kind of like, you care about the people who are involved in the whole chain in your process. But people think about, the businesses in their community as part of their life and experience.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And we may see more of that. Coffee shops tend to be that where you get to know your customers pretty well. You get to be, because you see them every morning. They're part of your life. You're part of their life. Develop friendship. I use that in a loose term, but you develop friendships with the customers, and so I think that certainly has helped us, because that connection, they have a connection to us as much as we have a connection to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I know we're coming up at about an hour now since you guys have kind of started logging on. So I want to be respectful of that, but I want to say thank you so much for taking time out just to share your story. I didn't know exactly, what would come out and where this would lead, but I think it's been a really good conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
It's nice to meet with you.
Nice to meet with you. And hopefully it's fun to travel again and we're all kind of healthy and ready, I'd like to have some of this coffee that, you've kind of really been developing and cultivating a taste in me. It's like, man, I want a really good cup of coffee now that I don't know if I can get it anywhere else. And so, yeah.
We're just a day trip.
Yeah.
Is there something you could recommend? A relatively, I like the idea of fruity, maybe relatively low in caffeine. I don't need to get super charged or anything. Is there something just one that you could recommend?
Um, my probably my favorites we have right now would be a or Ethiopian.
Okay.
We have a few different Ethiopian coffees in that I absolutely love. And then we have some really good naturally processed Colombians that are just fun cups of coffee and really, really good. Um, you know, so those are
Different varietals. I mean, like growers, regions, or whatever in here, right? Countries. I guess we normally have about 16 countries represented.
yeah, I think right now we're at like 15, 14 or 15. And then, but then some country like Nicaragua, I have three different from that. I have three different Ethiopians, two different Colombian, well, three different Colombians now. So it just depends on, what we have. But,
Okay.
um,
Yeah. So if I'm able to make it, how soon do you turn things over? Is it about every couple of months? Then you got a whole new batch, or you keep things.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. So like, I'll contract, coffee. So for coffees, I know I use a lot of, um, I will contract out large volumes of coffee.
Okay.
Um, so this year we kept it light on the Nicaraguan, but I contracted for 40, 154 pound bags. You know, Brazil was like 110 bags for the year. Ethiopia was another 40 bags.
Mhm.
Um, so it just depends on the coffee and
Yeah.
but we'll do that. And even already starting to talk with the farm in Nicaragua for contracts for next year. You know, so I mean, so with the coffees that I buy a lot of, um, we'll do it that way. So we will have, you know, we'll have enough coffee for the year. And then other coffees where we don't go through a lot of, where I buy 6, 8 bags a year, we'll just have them, use them, and then we'll switch out with something else when that crops up.
All right. So hopefully I can make it to Chattanooga by next spring sometime, and I'll think about Colombian or some of your Ethiopian blends. Yeah, and I can
Yeah.
finally have a real cup of coffee, and I'm excited.
Sit on the patio and enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah, I'm excited about the possibilities. Yeah, thanks again. I'm going to end the recording, and you guys have a great day. It was really a
Yeah,
great
you too.
start.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Reggie.